Howdy, howdy. My name's Chris, and this is Garage Noise, where we help you build your skill and increase your knowledge about paint and body repair. And today's no different. We've got this Buick Encore here with a nasty dent in this door. It's got a nasty crease right there with a big crown, and it's even got a crown up into the center of this door. So I'm going to show you how to repair this today, the steps it takes, and the process. So let's dig in and get started. So let's pull this in and take a good look at this dent. Now I've removed the lower cladding so I could get a good look at what's going on underneath there, and I can see that the rear of the door is where it sustained most of the damage, and that created the dents in the front of the door. That lower body line is pretty straight until it gets to the back of that door. Now the upper body line where it curves up the door has been pushed in as well, so we need to get both these body lines into shape. That's the first plan of action. So I'm going to push that lower part of that door out. And for that, I'm going to take the door panel off on the inside and take a good look at what's going on in there and how I can push that dent out. So when you're trying to remove any dent, what you want to do is you want to put pressure on it, either pulling or pushing on the area that's been pushed in, and then you want to knock down the crowns that have been created from that dent. So that high ridge is a crown, and that's what needs to be tapped down as we apply pressure on that dent to remove it. This is going to help release some of that stored energy in that dent. Okay, so now we're going to take a look inside this door and see what we have. And you can see the damaged panel there. The outer skin has been damaged, all those wrinkles. It has a brace inside this door, and this is going to be a good leverage point to push the bottom of that door out, and then we can knock down the crowns as we do that. Now, all the areas I'm going to be pushing are going to be below that body line to where the cladding covers it. Now that we have a plan, let's start popping this dent. I'll use a pry bar to get behind that brace, and I'll push this area here, and then I'll knock down that high area. I'll use a little bit of muscle and push out the lower part of that door as I tap down the high areas and the crowns. Now I'm going to take my spoon and I'm going to wedge it down in there behind that brace and use it kind of like a dolly to knock down that high area that's in that cladding section. It's important to get that area leveled out and back into shape because that's holding a lot of energy there and it's keeping the other dents from coming out. Now that I have that lower body line pretty much into shape, we're going to go ahead and pull these larger dents and knock down the crowns. For that, I'm going to use these glue tabs. This is a new thing that I'm trying out, and they have a slide bracket that slides over them, and then you use a hook and a slide hammer to either pull or slide hammer those dents out. So this rear dent here, I'm going to put some pressure on it by pulling on it, and then I'm going to tap down the crown and get that metal to release. Tap down this crown a little bit while I'm pulling. I'll try knocking down this crown with a little bit of pressure and my body hammer, and then I'm going to go over it with my spoon and hammer and try and knock it down even further. Now I'm going to reposition this glue tab and place it right on that body line. And that's going to help me pull that dent out that's created there and maybe get that body line into shape a little bit. Now I'm just going to continue working out these dents until this is back into shape and level and ready for some filler. Okay, let's take a good look at what we've done so far. And this dent is starting to shape up. That crown's still there a little bit right above that body line, but the body lines are taking shape, the bottom one and the top one. We still have some work to do to knock down some crowns and get that level like we want to before we start filling it. Now on the rear part of this door, I'm going to have to grind this down to bare metal, get out the G90E and pull those dents out. Now I'm going to take my spoon and my hammer. I'm going to lay it flat against the panel on this lower section between the two body lines, and we'll flatten that out. So when that dent was created, it pulled the metal and it created a crease right on the edge of that door. You can see it there. We need to flatten that out. So what I'm going to do is just lay my spoon on it and hammer that down. I'm going to lay it right on that crease and knock that down so it flattens it out. Okay, now we're ready to get it down to bare metal so we can use the G90E and pull out these smaller dents and get those into shape. So we're using the angle grinder with a 36 grit roll-lock disc. We'll remove all the paint, and now I can fire up the G90E and pull out some of these dents in this rear section. The G90E is a handy little tool that you can weld into the center of the dent with a small tip, and that'll help you pull out those dents. You can slide hammer them out, you can pull it and then tap down the crowns around it, tap down the metal around it so it's level. So it works very well. You can check out the full review and demo on this on my channel. I'll leave a link at the end. And if you appreciate this content, do me a favor, like and subscribe to the channel. Now I've sprayed a little guide coat on this bare metal so I can block it and it'll show me any high or low areas. Now I'm going to take my spoon, I'm going to put it inside the panel and use it as a dolly as I use my slapper file to knock down any high areas and flatten this metal out, kind of dolly it into shape. Now I'm using a metal file here to file this metal down, and I'm not really trying to remove any metal. I'm just trying to see any more high or low areas that I need to remove with the G90E. We're going to work this little crown up at the top of this door. We're going to knock it down a little bit. I will have to eventually fill this, but we're going to try and dolly it as flat as possible. This door is really starting to take shape, and now it's time for some filler. So the remaining waves and imperfections, we're going to use filler to straighten that out. Now your first coat of filler, you want to kind of press it in, do what they call a tight coat, where you press it in a little bit, and that helps get it in any of those waves or low areas. It'll also eliminate pinholes, which can be created by air trapped in the filler. We're not trying to get it perfectly straight on the first coat of filler. We just want to get it filled, get some material in those low areas, and then sand it down so it starts the leveling process. For the first coat of filler, we're going to use 80 grit sandpaper on the orbital sander just to get it roughed into shape before we apply another coat. After you sanded down the first coat of filler, you want to check the panel for any high areas that could create problems in your finish coats. So I noticed a couple little high areas where those crowns were. We're going to tap those down and put another coat of filler over this panel. Continuing with the 80 grit sandpaper, I'm going to use a smaller block to block out this roughness and start shaping this panel. I'm going to be aware of the body lines. I'm going to start blocking down to the body lines and then up to the body lines to keep those body lines crisp and sharp. It's always good to have a variety of different blocks in different sizes. So this dent at the top of this door, I want to have a little bit of a larger block to cover more surface area. That's going to help you get it straight. When blocking over a dent, you want to block in all different directions or an X pattern. This will help you get the best results and get that panel straight. Blocking a panel is going to help reveal any high or low areas you have in your repair. So right here you can see I've blocked this filler and blocked down to bare metal. There's a little bit of bare metal there, and then there's a low area to the left. So all these things you want to be aware of. You want to constantly feel over it and feel how does it feel? Does it feel straight? If you hit bare metal, then you need to stop and evaluate it and see what you need to do next. You might need to tap that metal down and put some more filler over it, or you may need to just put filler over the entire repair area. To help preserve the body line, I ran a piece of tape right on the peak, and now we're going to use filler and fill right down to the edge of that tape. And that's going to help preserve that line and keep it nice and crisp and sharp. Now I'm going to apply a final coat of glaze. The product I use is Icing, and if you're interested in any of the products and tools I use, you can check out my storefront. The link is in the description. But we want to use this to fill any deep scratches that we might have missed. We've been working our way down to 320 grit scratches. We started with 80. We blocked it last body filler with 180 grit sandpaper. We're going to lightly go over this with 180, block it, and then we'll go over it with 320. We want those scratches to be down to 320 before we primer. So now we're going to apply a little bit of a guide coat just to give us a better idea of any higher or low areas that we might have. And then we'll block it out with some 180, and then we'll move to 320. Now we're going to sand around this repair area with some 600 grit sandpaper on the orbital sander just to prep out this panel for primer. Now we have this repair all sanded, blocked, and ready for primer. We're going to mask it off. I'm rolling my paper here so I don't leave any hard edge of primer that I have to sand out. And then we'll tape up the jamb and the outer area and get a good coat of 2K urethane primer on this. The primer I use is Roberlo ME1. It's a direct-to-metal primer. Also can be used as a sealer. Really good primer, sands easy. We're going to put 2 coats on. We are using the 3M Performance gun. If you haven't seen the video and demo on this gun, check it out. I'll leave a link at the end. If you appreciate this content and found it helpful, give me a shout out down in the comments below. And if you want to share pictures of your project or have any questions, you can email me at garagenoise247@gmail.com. Be sure to check out next week's video when I share with you how to prep and paint this vehicle. It's gonna look amazing, so turn those notifications on. I appreciate each and every one of you watching. We'll see you next time on Garage Noise.